Welcome to this guided quiet time, written by Warren Walker and read by Warren Walker. Some would call this guided meditation, but I would call it guided quiet time simply because it is a time for you to be quiet and relax, but not emptying the mind quite like meditation is. This is different from most guided tracks, as it is not for you to ponder anything in particular or empty yourself. Rather, it's a time to just get lost in a fantasy world. If at any point during this reading you fall asleep, that's okay. This track was designed to be able to put you to sleep. For this reason, it's not recommended to listen to this track whilst driving or operating equipment. So sit back, get comfortable, whatever position that is for you. We're going to count you down. I'm going to walk you through what's known as box breathing, a technique you can take with you into the world around you long after this recording is done. It helps calm you, and it helps your thoughts become clearer. We will be inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, exhaling for 4 seconds, and then holding at the bottom for 4 seconds. If at any point you lose sync with my count, that's okay. Just try to resynchronize yourself as best you can. Ready? Breathe in. Breathe out. Hold. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Breathe in. Good job. Now I want you to imagine, as you inhale deeply, that you're inhaling a certain kind of mist. This mist gives off a purple-golden radiance, and as it spreads into your lungs and pumps through your bloodstream, your whole body begins to slowly relax. You feel yourself sinking down into your bed, like a warm hug. You're sinking and relaxing, and it's coming together to form the images in your mind. You see before you a set of golden stairs. The room is pitch black besides these stairs. There are 10 of them in total, so let's walk up together. Imagine in great detail the muscles moving in your leg as you take the first step. Good. Now the same for the second step. It's as though you're relearning how to walk within your mind's eye. Now taking the third step, you use a little less muscle as you regain your muscle memory. Your physical legs are slowly becoming a thing of the past, and all that exists is the legs within your mind's eye. You bring your leg up for the fourth step, slowly pressing your body upwards towards the fifth. You no longer have a physical set of legs. They're numb. They're gone. All that matters is the legs within this world you see in your mind's eye. All that matters is climbing these golden steps with your legs. Enter the sixth step, then seventh. You climb faster now with the legs woven by your mind, now no longer bound by the constraints of physicality. 8, 9. It feels just like walking in the real world. So as you climb the 10th step, you feel yourself as nothing more than a pair of legs. There is a large golden set of double doors in front of you. You reach out with both hands, feeling relaxation flow through both arms as you gently pull on them. They're very heavy, and you feel your muscles strain, feeling the weight of your astral arms as you pull backwards. And slowly, the door opens. Shining golden light beams through. Now take your final step as you leave your physical body behind.
Your back eases into the rough bark of a tree, still damp and wet with last night's rain. The small campsite you find yourself at boasts nothing but the bare essentials. A cot of woolly blankets and fabric scrap stretches out underneath you, but the warm spring air doesn't carry enough chill to justify covering up. The small campfire you've built crackles and pops against the light misting of rain, heating the pot of stew that's held over it on a spit. A small circle of stones surrounds the blazing teepee of sticks. Trees surround you, and a mere few paces away is the path you've been traveling on. The air is ripe with the scent of wet earth, smoke, and pollen. Droplets of rain collect on a leaf somewhere above your head and drop down a few paces away in a steady pattern. Although the stars are overcast, the pale moonlight beams through the clouds, darting past the tree canopy and illuminating the green and brown environment around you. To your left, you've set a tin cup of tea on a rock. It tastes of blackberries and pomegranate. Sitting next to it is a small wooden pipe with smoke curling off the tip. It tastes like caramel. The stew smells richly of rabbit meat and roots, and there's a wooden bowl set out next to it anytime you'd like some. Feel free to use any of these, as they will never run out for the duration of your time spent here. Across from you is something of an odd figure. His brown baggy pants are draped across his crossed legs, and he sits on his own cot. A long purple coat is draped over his body, with the hood pulled up so that only a twinkle of his baby blue eyes escape from under its shadow. The underside of his clean-shaven face is illuminated in the warm orange glow of the fire, his lips upturned in a slight grin as he roots through the large backpack in front of him. The backpack stands almost as tall as he does, and has various trinkets, charms, and cooking implements tied off to its sides. "Ah, you're awake," he says, in an accent which is slightly foreign to you but somehow comforting. "You dozed off for a bit there. Had me worried." "Ah, well, sleep catches all of us eventually, eh? Kinda like death, huh?" He lets out a wheezing chuckle. "Sorry, bad taste. Well, if you want to live a little longer, have I got the thing for you." He pulls from his bag a bronze helm with a red plume running from its crown all the way to the back. "Let me tell you, this right here has quite the story behind it. So I bought it off this fella, right? Real rough-cut sort of character. Hands like 2 bricks stitched to his wrists. Just rough and big, forehead built like a mountain. Stood at least 7 foot tall, probably weighed as much as an elephant. All muscle on him, not a scrap of fat on his body. Anyway, so I just had a little shop set up at the bazaar, you know? Just a little counter where I sell my knickknacks and whatnot. And this behemoth just comes up to me with a full set of armor and a blade that had to be the nicest piece of metalworking I've ever seen. He just says, "How much can you give me for all this?" So you know, I say, "Sir, I couldn't possibly give you the price these things are worth." And then he says to me, "Well, what could you trade for 'em? Maybe some toys or a stuffed bear would be perfect." And I just kind of look at him all cockeyed, you know? 'Cause I mean, the man is obviously built from the ground up to kill people. So I just kind of repeat it all back to him, and he nods his head. So I dig around in my little sack and pull out this teddy bear about the size of your chest, and a stuffed rabbit, and a little stuffed gnome I got trading with the Fey folk back in... Well, it don't really matter now, does it? Anyways, his eyes go wide as saucers, and he starts with the, "Yes, this is perfect. Oh, she'll love it." And just drops everything on the table and snatches them up. And then he starts walking off, and I says to him, "Sir, I still owe you some gold pieces. This isn't enough." Let me tell you, shady I may be, friend, but honest I am as well, yes. And he turns back to me and says, "I don't need any gold. I just need a few of these for my baby girl. She loves them so much." And so I says, "Well, at the very least, let me give you a few more." So I starts rooting around in my bag, and he's just standing there like a kid on Christmas Day. I says to him, "Sir, it's really none of my business, and I should just be happy for the deal, but why give all this up? This is artisan-made weaponry. You obviously spent a fortune on it." So he looks at me and says, "Ah, well, you see, I was a pit fighter for 10 years. Plenty of blood on that blade there. Plenty on my hands as well. And in a fight about 5 years back, I won this beautiful concubine, Marise, a beauty from the Far East. Truly none as gorgeous as her. So you know, well, within the year we pop out a little one, and well, about 2 weeks ago she asked me what I do for work, and I'd start telling her because, you know, it's glorious and it's cool. And she just looked at me like I'm a monster. And she won't come by me for the next week, so I resolved to give it up and take a more honest line of work, no matter what." The little merchant puts the helmet back into his bag. Little big for you, I think. Personally, I think the man's a damn fool. But, the things we do for love, eh? I got 2 little ones of my own back home. Too bad I don't see 'em much. Comes with the occupation. You got anyone back home, friend? Ah, well, everyone's got their reason to struggle on, don't you think? Makes life interesting, even if it isn't always fun. He digs some more in his bag, seemingly looking for something in particular. Let me tell you about something not fun, if I can find it. His eyes light up and he pulls free a fairly ordinary-looking cup. This right here doesn't look like much, right? He holds it up to the light and reveals a small, crudely carved stag on the underside of it. Doesn't look like much, yeah? Well, let me tell you, nothing I own has ever been quite the pain in the arse this was. So there I am, doing my usual trades, right? And this older woman comes to me as I'm packing up and says to me, she says, "Sir, please, I don't have much, but I'm in desperate need of a bit of coin to repay some debts." And I says, "All right, what are you selling?" So she pulls out this map and gives me this long-winded spiel. Apparently her son was a treasure hunter or something, and she's selling his map. Blah, 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 yada, 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 right? So I take the map off her for about 5 copper pieces, and I don't think much about it. A couple of days later, I'm bored, lounging about my house, and I remember the map. So I look at it, and wouldn't you know, it's only about a 4 days ride from my place. So I tell my old lady and my kids, Daddy's going on a small business trip. And I take my horse and I set off. So 4 days later, I roll up to the spot. Pitch black out, only my lantern to light my way. Turns out the map led me to a hole in the side of this hill. Weird, right? It's buried treasure, though, so who knows? I don't think much of it. I go inside, one hand glued to the hilt of my dagger, the other hand holding my lantern up. And it's dark in there, and I'm seeing all these unlit lamps and these stone shelves on every side. But it's a pretty straightforward corridor. And as I get to the end, I see this chest. It's nothing real special, just a few wooden planks held together with some bronze, right? And I open it, and there's this little cup sitting in there. So I snatched it up, thinking it's made out of gold or something. And immediately I hear this voice. "Who dares disturb my slumber?" So I jump and spin around, and standing there in my lantern light is about 3 head of skeletons, and boy are they pissed. No armor, only one had a sword, beaming bright blue eyes, and it hits me. That old lady's son wasn't no treasure hunter, he was a grave robber. I took off running, I tell you. Not even thinking, just panicking. I knocked into one of those bony lads so hard his bones go scattering everywhere. Then swoosh, I barely duck under the sword blade, roll just underneath it I do. And now there's one bonehead between me and the door, and he reaches out to grab me. So I let him have it with the pointy end of my blade, and his arm pops right off. I come out the hole so fast I go tumbling down the hill, lost my lantern, lost my sword, and bumped my head pretty hard on a rock. So I managed to get my bearings back, and of course it's pouring down rain, and of course my horse is spooked. He chuckles, shaking his head as he produces a pipe from somewhere within the folds of his robe. 'Twas a 4-day trek back in the pouring rain. Oh, you should have heard the complaining my old lady got up to, when all I had to show was a little wooden bowl. Using his cloak like a shield against the wind, he strikes a match, lights the pipe bowl, then flicks the spent match back into the campfire. Setting the odd trinket back into the bag, he takes a thoughtful puff of smoke. Some things just ain't worth the effort, eh, friend? What about you? Anything in your life not pan out quite like you expected? Yeah, that's a rough one. He takes another toke, then dumps the bowl off into the damp grass. Oh, well, the last two couldn't quite get your attention, but this just might do it. He digs through his bag once more and produces a small leather pouch. He undoes the loose twine knot binding it, and spills several dice of different shapes and sizes onto the ground. These right here are made of genuine dragon bone, imported from the far north. Let me tell you, I scored a deal on these. So I'm up north, right? Dogman territory, far up in the mountains. Ever seen a dogman? Weird looking, I think, but I digress. So I'm up there for this festival. 22nd anniversary of the end of the Dragon Wars. Nasty conflict, that one. But you know, nobody much messes with the dog folk after that. So anyway, their bones are all over the mountain. The dragons, that is, not the dog folk. And during this festival, they'll let strangers come and get some and buy and sell and trade them. So I buy myself 4 or 5 toe bones, thinking to bring them back to my kids. You know how kids are, they like souvenirs, so tell them it's a dragon bone and they'll be all over it. He suddenly cracks a grin and chuckles. Sorry, bad merchant joke. I was just gonna sell them somewhere, of course. So, anyways, I'm just kind of wandering the city, perusing the wares as you do, and I come across this great big crowd of people in a line so long it's almost out the gates. So I just go stand in line, not really knowing what it's all about, right? So I says to the little pup in front of me, "Why's everyone standing here in line?" The little pup turns, and he's the most adorable thing you've ever laid eyes on. I tell you, dog folk pups just melt my little heart. Sleek brown coat of fur, dark green eyes, big droopy jowls, and big old floppy ears. Looked like a little hound dog. So he looks up at me, and they've got an odd dialect, but you can understand, and he says, "Sir, we's waiting on Jack Jabberjaw." So I smile and nod, and a few seconds later, I says, "Who exactly is Jack Jabberjaw?" "Well, sir," says he, "Jack's got this skill where he can take any bone you feed him and chew it up into whatever shape you want." So I smile and says to him, "And what are you hoping to get?" And he says back, "Well, sir, I'm going to have him chew this bone right here." Mind you, he was carrying a pretty large bone. "Into a bone rose for my ma." It's enough to just melt my little heart, I tell you. So I dig through my bag and I get this little guy a sucker. Big red one, and you should have seen his little eyes light up. Anyway, so the line's moving along and I'm still thinking about what I'll get made, right? And that little pup's just sucking away on that sucker and his little tail's wagging the whole time. And then I gets an idea. I've only some small dragon bones. So I was gonna take them to the craftsman and have them made into something like a hilt or an axe handle, but now I've got a better idea. So it's my turn up, right? Oh, and old Jack, he's this big old wolf-looking doghead, great big pointy ears and a mean jaw. Then I says to him, I says, "Can you make me 3 sets of knuckle bones?" And he just kind of nods. So I hand him my bones, sticks them in his jaw, he does, and there's this awful grinding sound while I just sit there and watch him chew. I really can't understate how awful the noise is, just horrible. So it goes on for a few minutes like that, and he starts slobbering all over the place. Big globs of drool hanging down from his jowls, almost to the ground, I tell you. And then, lo and behold, he spits them right into my hand, all covered in slobber. He chuckles, polishing the dice on his sleeve. Of course, they were pretty rough cut. Had to do a little work myself, get the numbers etched into them, get them nice and smooth. Sold a set to a gambler way down south. Sold another set to an officer of the crown. The people you meet, eh? Tell me, you ever meet anyone interesting on your travels? Yeah, life's crazy like that, isn't it? He says, slowly putting the dice back in the bag. I think it's important to remember everything is temporary. You know? That's why I'm in this job. Life's too short to just sit in one place. I want to see as much as I can before I go beyond. Sorry, stranger. Got a little heavy-handed again. Ah, well.